I would like to thank you, both of you, co-chairs, for convening this session, a very important discussion. At the outset, I would like to align my delegation with the statement delivered by the distinguished permanent representative of Italy on behalf of the Uniting for Consensus group. Together with a large majority of member states, we firmly believe that the paralysis that we see often at the Security Council, leading to inaction on crucial matters related to international peace and security, stems from the misuse or abuse of the veto power by the permanent members. This point of view is widely shared even outside the UN, in the think tanks, academia, media, and civil society. And there is an overwhelming sentiment against the veto and how actually this privilege is anachronistic today along with the permanent membership. Yet, co-chairs' proposals to expand veto-wielding members persist. So how can this dichotomy be defended? We believe that the problem cannot be the solution. Pakistan's policy position remains clear and consistent. The veto should either be abolished or, at a minimum, its use by the current permanent members severely restricted. Any expansion of the veto or addition of new individual permanent members is firmly opposed by us, as more vetoes would only aggravate the problem that we are facing. And this is a position of principle. However, we also realize that the power of veto remains a reality of the Charter, and the P5 are largely united in preserving this privilege and would resist any dilution. Pakistan therefore supports efforts to enhance accountability and transparency in the use of the veto, including existing mechanisms enabling the General Assembly to review and debate its use. We believe that such initiatives are designed to reinvigorate the charter functions of the General Assembly and not impinge upon the IGN's consideration of Security Council reform. Colleagues, the recent pattern of veto use in the Security Council merits a reality check. Notwithstanding the veto initiative, the frequency of vetoes has risen. This trend reinforces the need to explore measures that can increase the political cost of the veto within and outside the Council. Moreover, we all know that veto is primarily the power to block decisions of the Council, and we need to address and balance this blocking power through more democratic means. In our view, the most realistic way to raise the political cost of veto and to counterbalance its blocking power is not by creating new vetoes, but by increasing the number of elected members of the Security Council. Increased number of elected members will tilt the balance away from the permanent members. We can agree this is the reality, not the counterintuitive claim by some, primarily the aspirants, that increasing the number of elected members will not lead to a rebalancing of the Council. Accordingly, co-chairs, in a reformed Council with more elected members, the burden of vetoing a resolution will increase markedly, as it would be countering the wishes and positions of an even higher number of members with affirmative votes in favor of a resolution. keeping the current ratio, 16 affirmative votes would be required in a council of, say, 26. We can agree on a higher ratio, say 17 or 18 affirmative votes that would be required. And this is how the veto's blocking power can be balanced, not through another undemocratic veto, but through the collective weight of non-permanent members. When a permanent member blocks action that was backed by a broad majority, the veto becomes more isolated and harder to justify, increasing accountability and its reputational cost. Co-chairs, the power of veto also empowers the permanent members to influence the outcome of council's decisions once they are aligned on a certain issue. So they only need to persuade 4 other members to get a resolution adopted. But by enhancing the number of affirmative votes through elected members, the power of the permanent members to influence decisions will be reduced, as it would now be required to bring a greater number of members on board, thereby enhancing broader representation. Now, as compared to all these options, imagine a council of 11 to 13 permanent members and the ensuing chaos in decision-making and the effectiveness of the Security Council. Colleagues, another concrete way of preserving collective interests is to reach an understanding as part of a reformed council that would require the concurrence of all members of a region for adoption of any resolution related to that region. This would, on one hand, raise the political cost of casting a veto on any situation related to that region, and on the other hand, even more importantly, this will strengthen the regional ownership in decision making. It could be of particular interest to regional groups such as Africa, that is increasingly asserting a regional perspective through its representatives on the council, and which is fundamentally different from the pursuit of individual interests and privileges by others. And we think such an arrangement can also apply to the Arab group. Co-chairs, I would like to conclude by saying that the Security Council reform must be comprehensive and addressed as a single undertaking, including the question of veto, which is inextricably linked to the other 4 clusters of reform. We oppose deferring this issue or addressing it in isolation. And we have repeatedly heard from colleagues since this morning the emphasis on some of the core and agreed principles like democracy, representation, accountability, effectiveness, and transparency as the foundation for Security Council reform. Veto, in our view, runs counter to each one of those principles, and we must seriously reflect on this contradiction. That is why we say that if we want a reform for all, there must be no privilege for anyone. I thank you.